Hello, Diane here from Stitchcape, where ordinarily I love to hold social sewing sessions, socials and retreats and all things coming together to connect and enjoy our sewing hobby together in the same building, all together. Which of course is not happening at the minute. My main passions are patchwork and quilting and applique and home decor, that sort of world, although I do dressmaking as well. That's not so much what I share so much with the public. I don't teach that. So what I've done this year is I've thought of a word for the year, and that word is simple, for lots of reasons which I won't go into now. If you're on my newsletter list though, you will find all of that out in there. So this word simple. So being a patchwork quilter and a home decor and applique person, I thought, oh, how am I going to represent that? Because in the past, I always make something for my word for the year. I've had focus. I did try and find my old samples, but I don't know where they are. I've had focus. I can't remember them now, of course, that I'm on the video, but I normally make something anyway. And this year, I decided I was going to use, it just comes to me all of a sudden. I can't explain why. These things just come to you, don't they? Great ideas. Bing! There's life in there. And I decided, I got a funny feeling that's going to be back to front. And if somebody can help me explain how to stop that being back to front, that would be marvellous. So I decided to use this pattern, Alphabet Soup by Jaybird Quilts. And there's also some rulers you can get that help you piece this. But I'm not going into all the piecing today. It's all about the quilting of these projects. But I have to, I think it's only right that I explain where I got the pattern from to piece the letters. So I decided to piece the letters for the word simple. So an S-I-M, you get the rest. And then once I'd pieced them, I then had to think, ooh, am I going to have them vertical, one on top of the other, or am I going to have them horizontal? Oh, no. If the horizontal is going to be quite wide. If it's vertical, it's going to be very long. So if I was to display it here, it would be like, the E would be like on the floor, which, you know, won't be too bad because it'd cover the wall and the fact that it needs painting. But no, what I decided to do was individual letters. And if you've followed me on Instagram or you've seen my previous YouTube videos, you'll know I've already shown a little bit about the I and the P. And again, I think they're going to be back to front, which is I'm writing. But the quilting, it doesn't matter. So I'll do a little recap of the I and the P first, then I'll go on to do the other letters for you. What I did on all of them is, let's get a bit closer here so you can see, because I've done the stitching in exactly the same colour as this Art Gallery Fabrics white linen, and for every letter these fabrics are the same. So the background is Art Gallery Fabrics white linen. The Japanese print is from Japan Crafts, and this ombre blue is Vanessa and Co, the first ombre range they did, without all the lovely metallics and that they have now, but I've got a ton of this, so I still need to keep using it. So those are the fabrics I used. And another thing that's the same on every letter is the fact that I stitched in the ditch all the way around each letter, because my idea is that the background will be flatter and the letter will have no quilting in it whatsoever. And so that will get raised up, and I'm not so sure it's going to show so well on video, but if I take some photos and I'll share those around about, that will explain that a lot more. It's a bit called trapunto, but mine's a vague trapunto as such, where your actual image, you want that to stand forward and the background to fall backwards, obviously. But I didn't bind them because this piecing is not simple. It's not for beginners. But if you have been sewing for a while of any kind and you can focus and give attention to, this is, I really love it. The last time I used it was on the quilt I made for my daughter when she went to university. That was over 3 years ago now, 3.5, 4 years ago. And I haven't used it since, but it takes concentration, definitely, but it's really worth it. I love it. So no binding, because there was enough complexity in that. So I've bagged these out as such, where you sew. Well, what I did with this was I fused the wadding to the front, and then I placed the backing right sides together, stitched all the way around with a gap in the middle, and then pulled it right side out. And then to close the seam, to close the seam that you had left, the section you'd left open, you quilt all the way around the edge. So that obviously you don't just stitch over the opening, you do all the way around to make it uniformed. So you've stitched in the ditch all the way around the letter, and I've stitched I've stitched very, very close to the edge, using yet another presser foot. And again, I can't remember the name of it. Kirsty will curse me, but it's a special foot where you're sewing on two different levels. Like there's nothing here, and yet you've got thickness there. So this, I think it's a bi-level foot by Brother. So that's what I used to stitch that really close to the edge. And then I got to town to playing with the shapes inspired me for my quilting on this piece. And so I drew with a water erasable marker the lines that I wanted to stitch, those like triangle shapes all the way around. And then once I'd stitched those, I then went ahead and did those. I think that looks like it's coming through okay. And then if I show you the back, you can perhaps see it even better, because you haven't got the patterns disturbing your view. So then I went ahead and did those, pretty much a shape like that. And doing things like this might look a bit daft on the video, but that actually helps you when you're going to do the quilting yourself. And I also used a water erasable pen to put those wavy lines on there as well, because I wanted to make sure that I was as close as possible to getting the point of one of the the curve right up in the point on each section. So to help me to do that, I did my water erasable marker. Doesn't mean I follow that marker to the T. No, that marker's just there to try and guide me to certain areas of the quilting. So I've got a better chance of actually hitting the marks that I want to hit. So that's the I, and the P I use. So with that, the I, I've used walking foot quilting and free motion quilting and stitch in the ditch and around the edge. And for this one, I've used a little bit of walking foot quilting, and this section here, I chose a decorative stitch from my machine and I enlarged it to the biggest it could get, because I thought it looked a little bit like a pea. I wonder if you can see it better on the back. It didn't work out quite well because it was really quite tricky in that triangle shape to get the pattern to line up nicely. But I'm fine with that. And then again, in the triangle areas, like there's one there, and one there. In those, I did walking foot quilting. Is it focusing? Can't tell. To do echo quilting around the inner shape of that. And then I've got again, I don't know if you can see the trapunto effect with a P standing forward from the stitching a little bit, but I've got a great photo I've taken that will show that bit better as well. Yeah, because these little projects like this are marvellous for practicing your quilting, because like I said, the problem I'm working with you is, well, do a quilt. But if you have little projects like this, little small things, it gives you that chance to have a play, to practice, to get the experience. Quilting is simple as such. You're just sewing through 3 layers. But There are a lot of skills involved. And the only way it'll get simpler for you and the ideas will flow freer is if you get experience, if you actually play, if you have a go on little projects like this. So if it does go belly up and you say, not having that, it doesn't matter, does it? You can even use scrap fabric. All of us who sew of any kind have fabric around that of odd shapes, and like when you cut dress patterns out, you always end up with weird shapes of your fabric left over, and what the hell do you do with those? Whereas that's what patchworkers do. We like to use as much as we can of our fabrics. But anyway, let's not get down that argument. So these are fab for having a play. Just trying your decorative stitching out, trying your walking foot out. Maybe you've never used it before. Maybe you bought a machine and you don't know what this great big chunky foot is for. Well, it's for quilting. And also for silk fabrics, actually, dressmakers, walking feet are great for flimsy, delicate fabrics as well. So, yeah, little small practice pieces are marvellous for having a go and doing different ideas like this that I'm giving you and getting your inspiration from somewhere. But it doesn't even have to be a piece like that, just a plain piece of fabric sandwiched. Where's that practice piece I had? Can't find it now. But yeah, just practice, play. Before any quilter, not just me, before any quilter starts a new quilt, they will have practice little scrappy sandwiches that they'll have a practice on to get their body warmed up, get their brain into the gear of what they're about to be doing, and that makes it easier. That helps it flow more as well. Because a lot of people say, tense shoulders. But the more you practice, the freer your shoulders will be, and the more you shimmy, the freer your shoulders will be. See, keep fit and sew. Now the E, I did the same, the rest, all the stitching around the edge to seal in the open seam, the stitching the ditch all the way around the letter, all of that happened. But the actual decorative quilting that I did in the background fabric around the shape, can you see? It's like that. So before you quilt, you'd go like that with your hand in the air or on your work surface, just to get your brain, your hand-eye coordination going. But that quilting inspiration came from Bev Evans' Art and Print. I follow Bev on Instagram, and I've met her because she lives on Merseyside. And the other day she posted an image of some Zentangle that she'd been doing, doodling. And that really is a lot of what free motion is. So I thought, and it was, I'll share a photo of it somewhere so Bev gets full credit for this. But it was full of different doodles all over it. And I just picked one of them and I used that to put there. Yeah, you can see it a little bit better on the back. Well, can you? If I give you time to have a look at it, fix the light. Yeah, so that's where my inspiration came for that one. So again, I practiced in the air. I practiced on a scrap sandwich with the machine before I got going. So I remembered to put the feed dogs down. Yeah, and then before you go to do your walking foot quilting, you then have to remember to put the feed dogs back up. It's all exercise. Go on. I think this is one of my favourites, but then it's also the one that shows most mistakes. The L, I got inspiration for my decorative quilting as such from the shape of the pieced background. So can you see it's two triangles sewn together, and I quilted, well, you can see exactly what I did there. So they're going down that way, and I just used a mark on my presser foot to help me get them straight-ish. And then that one, I went the other way. I went that way on those. And I really love the texture that provides. But, so you can see it now because I'm showing you upright. Around here, you can see the seam from here really, and some loose threads, which it shows up actually a lot more. There you go, can you see it? Perhaps there. I can see it more in the flesh really, but Cut and Alter on Instagram, Abigail, she showed us a while ago about a tool that helps you deal with that. It's a Clover Soft Touch Unpick, and at the time I thought, oh yes, I want one of those, because what it helps you to do is you can get inside your sandwich and grab hold of those dark loose threads that are showing and pull them out, get rid of those blighters. But of course I never ordered one at the time, so you had to order one yesterday, so it'll be coming, and as soon as it comes I will get to work on there. So that's my L, and then my S. Oh, and of course the little triangle in the corner, that's pieced the same way as I did the ones on the P. Okay, and then again you're going to see it on the S. We'll go through the S now, and it's not, see there's a triangle there, there's a triangle there, and there's one there that I've done that echo quilting. And then my inspiration for this quilting, which is like the line, the circle, along, the circle, along, the circle, along, that quilting, perhaps you can see it better on the back. Can't tell if it's properly focusing or not. I'll soon tell when I watch the video back later. That came from my this year's Quilters Planner. Oh, look at that. On the first week, they have all sorts of things, and I haven't put anything in this yet, so I can show you. All I've got on there is cancel hair appointment, because I can't go because I'm in tier 4 and my hairdresser's in tier 3, so I can't go. So I'll have to cancel that tomorrow. But that's where I got the inspiration from. The Quilters Planner have, oh God, it's full of quilty goodness and ideas and all sorts. So that's where I got the inspiration from for my quilting on this piece, on the S. And on some of them you may well have noticed, on some of the others, but I've just noticed here as well. Unfortunately, dozy me, when I was piecing them, you might see some on the background. You'll see there, see I used a light grey on the spool and a white, I think it was, in the bobbin. Not intelligent, because that is going to show that the grey was too dark a grey, and really when you're dealing with such light fabrics as this, you do need to use coordinating threads, you know, that because I'm normally a big advocate of light grey, because I don't use well, I didn't used to use light coloured fabric very often, but now I found this Art Gallery Fabrics white linen, I really quite like it, and it's perfect for these. So I'm so glad I've got a pile of it, because I do actually sell it through Stitchcape. Well, I'm meant to, but anyway, whole other issue. And then the last letter is the M. Nice biggie. And it doesn't matter because it's which way. If the others were back to front, this one is fine. And what I did with this one, I took inspiration from the fabric this time. Now, this quilting is, in my opinion, the worst of my letters. I got a funny feeling, I don't know how I could have done it without, but I got a funny feeling I forgot to put the feed dogs down, because it felt really stiff and awkward. But of course, did I stop and look? Did I? I just blamed myself and said, oh Diane, you're just being rubbish, just crack on. The more you do it, the better you'll get, the smoother and easier flow it'll be. But anyway, I did little flowers all joined together, because of course there's loads of little cherry blossoms in the fabric, so I used the patterned fabric as my inspiration for my decorative quilting. Yeah, and again there, I suppose you've all seen, you can see, I don't know if it's the grey thread of the piecing, or I'm not sure, I think it is though, so not grey. But you know what? These are going to be hung in the most simple, Remember my word of the year, simple? The most simple way possible. No hanging sleeves, no tabs, none of that malarkey. Although it does look very smart. I love tabs. That's my noshi, my Japanese New Year's celebration hanger. But on these, all I'm going to do, you can't see it there, but I've got a wall along there above the mirror. I'm going to put some string up along. I've ordered some little gold pegs because, of course, there's lots of gold metallic in the Japanese fabric. So I'm going to use little gold pegs and hang these up in order on the string. So nice and simple way of hanging them up. So hopefully that's given you some ideas about where you can find ideas of how to quilt. And even if you've got a massive big quilt that you want to quilt and you think, it's too big, I don't know what to do. Well, the usual rule with it is break it down into blocks or break it down into 12-inch areas and just quilt that area first and then go on to your next one. Often people start quilting and they do a sample quilt, so every block you do is different anyway. So quilt differently on each one. Okay, so there you go. Happy quilting and get practicing and keep it simple. Well, yeah, as simple as you can. Bye.